George, is the bull market over?
Ooh, that's the million-dollar question.
Today I sit down with crypto veteran George of CryptosRUs
Fundamentally, Bitcoin has changed.
as he shares what actually comes next for crypto.
From a macro perspective, in the US, all eyes are on the Fed and rate cuts.
Highly recommend you watch today's entire conversation.
George, I want to put our conspiracy hats on, and indulge me with this. I want to get your take.
As this crypto veteran shares his theory,
This relates to the theory around a super cycle.
and of course the number one altcoin.
If the crypto market crashed by 30% tomorrow, what's the one altcoin you would rush to pick up?
Click the like button right now to support me, and let's start.
George, is the bull market over?
Ooh, that's the million-dollar question. No, it's not. I think right now we're going through a rough patch, right? But it's not something that we haven't seen before. We have seen many rough patches. I know last week we did experience the biggest liquidation event ever in history, but that's mostly affecting leverage traders, right? A lot of leverage traders got wiped out for sure, but spot traders, or I should say spot holders, um, didn't really get damaged nearly as much. It sounded a way worse than it was. But in terms of rough patches, we've seen so many. I think people forgot that earlier this year, Bitcoin fell down to 73,000, 73, 74,000. That was just 6 months ago. That wasn't like last year or 2 years ago. That was this year. And obviously, if you look back like to last year in 2024, 2025, we had like basically 6, 7, 8 months of slow, gradual declines until we broke out and we had like a mini run, right? And we saw that right around this time period, mid-October to early November is when things get really exciting. So no, I don't think the bull run's over. We have seen this many times, and we just have to get past it. That's really it.
I remember doing interviews a year ago, 2 years ago, saying that I thought, well, my bear case is Bitcoin finishes this cycle at 120, mid 140 to 50, ultra bull if everything goes our way, strategic Bitcoin reserve, maybe 200. So in the technical sense, this cycle met my basic expectations of the minimums I thought we would see a year or 2 years ago. Where do you think we'll be? Do you still believe in the 4 year cycle? And has anything changed based on your expectations from a year ago?
I think the only thing that hasn't met my expectations so far has been the performance of alts. But in terms of Bitcoin, I think just like you, I think we're basically following what we have done before, like I said, and it has met my expectations. I mean, honestly, sitting above 100,000, once upon a time, that was like a magical place that we all wished Bitcoin would go, but never in a million years we thought, okay, yeah, we're here and now it's boring, right? Like years ago, that just wasn't the case. We were all hoping for 100,000 and it never quite got there and we were close and we came back down, but now we're sitting well above and I think it has met my expectations. But if we simply stay here in the next 3 months and say January rolls around in 2026 and we're still here, then I would say no, it has not met my expectations. I do believe bare minimum we would see around 140, 150 as a bare minimum, and we were not too far off. We were at 126, not too long ago. But I still expect big moves to be made. I still think that there's a good chance we could be as high as 170, 180, and possibly even at 200,000 by the end of this cycle. Um, and the second part of what you asked, do I still believe in a 4 year cycle? I'm starting to lean more and more towards yes, I still believe in it because we still have the halving event, obviously, every 4 years. But I think with the introduction of institutions and now countries and banks and private and public companies all building treasuries. I believe because of these things, fundamentally Bitcoin has changed. And I don't think we will follow the same 4 year cycle like before, where we see like maybe 2.5 years of crypto winter, and then 1.5 years to 2 years of like recovery and bull run. I think that may be over. It may, I guess, we'll see, right? In the next 3 months, we'll see. But I believe because all these big boys with their big money is in Bitcoin, they're not going to behave the same as retail. They're not going to like pull up the calendar and say, well, it's December 31st, so we all have to sell now. It just doesn't work that way. And if such a large amount of Bitcoin is being held by these guys and they're not being sold off, then who's going to actually, trigger crypto winter? In the past, I would argue it was, retail or the whales that were the ones that triggered, but this time around, I don't think so. So I still believe in it, but I guess, all questions will be answered in 3 months, right? Or 2.5 months.
True. Do you plan to take or how do you plan to take profits this cycle? If it's, if Bitcoin just finishes around 120 to 140, not
Mhm.
that hypey, would you just hold? Maybe not sell the Bitcoin at all, just sell some of the altcoins. If we get closer to 200, that's getting hypey. That's the time to offload, I would think.
Right. Um, I think this cycle is going to be a little bit different in terms of how I take profits versus previous cycles because, quite honestly, in previous cycles, I took no profits. So I held everything. And, some people would say that's stupid. You could have sold, but I was a firm believer and I just didn't quite understand the market mechanics and how things worked in previous cycles as well as I do now. I think some of these points that I mentioned, like if Bitcoin hits above or hits like 140, 150, um, in the next few months, I think that's like a profit taking point. If it goes above 200, then it's more profit taking. I don't know the exact amount that I'm going to be pulling. I've always said, well, not always, but in recent times when people ask me about profit taking, I've said I think a good amount of your portfolio in cash is around 20 to 30%. And that's because you have enough to be able to buy the dip or to DCA, right? And as your portfolio gets bigger, then obviously that cash pile or the percentage of cash pile shrinks. So that's a good reminder, like, okay, take some profits and get it back, right? So I think what I'm going to do is after we hit certain milestones, like let's say like 150, I'll probably bump that up to like 30, 35%. And then we're above like 170. I'll bump it up to maybe like 50%. And then above 200, maybe even go higher, 70, 75%, right? I think I'll always leave something there, especially for Bitcoin. But I do plan on increasing, I guess, my cash pile as we go higher. So yeah, that's my strategy.
Yeah, I kind of do the same thing. Dollar cost average out, just like I dollar cost average in. So I relate. George, what's our next catalyst? Because to paint a picture, Bitcoin and crypto has sort of risen over the years. Um, the ETFs in 2024,
Hmm.
the crypto president getting elected, strategic Bitcoin reserve in 2025. Recently, we had the DATS, digital asset treasuries, Tom Lee buying Ethereum, Bitcoin companies buying Bitcoin, Solana companies buying Solana, Sui, it goes down the list. It seems like that's sort of priced in already, or the whole market is aware of those. What is the next catalyst?
I don't think it's like any one thing. I think it's going to be a combination of things. For example, from a macro perspective, in the US, all eyes are on the Fed and rate cuts, right? And we know there's like two more. There's one coming later this month. That'll be good for markets. And then there's one coming in December. And there's been talks about more coming in 2026. So generally speaking, when you have monetary easing, that's a good thing for the economy, right? Or at least arguably, maybe not great for the economy, but it's great for markets. US markets rally, crypto rallies. So I think that's a big catalyst. Another catalyst could be geopolitical. We're hearing more and more about Russia and Ukraine. Even today, Trump supposedly is going to have a call with Putin, right? Trying to end the war. We have these like tariff wars, trade wars going on right now, also with China. I think these things will be resolved. And when they do, they'll be great for markets, right? People are always worried about geopolitical stuff like wars and now tariffs and retaliation over tariffs and stuff like that. So I think these things concluding will also help, big catalyst. And then outside of these, I think institutional interest is still a catalyst. We haven't seen the spot ETFs come out yet for various crypto that have applications, like XRP, Solana, Cardano, AVAX, SUI, all these guys, Doge. Um, they're all pending right now because of the government shutdown. I think Paul Atkins, because he's so ambitious on changing the landscape in America for crypto, I think he's going to approve most of these. And I think as all these other factors play into driving markets up, then obviously Wall Street starts loading up as well. And that could also be a big, catalyst. Besides having Bitcoin ETF and Ethereum ETF, you're gonna have all these ETF inflows as well to various crypto projects. And then, like you mentioned, Tom Lee and Bitmine have started this trend outside of Sailor to build treasuries around alts that are not Bitcoin, right? And we have seen others like Soul Strategy do it with Solana, and now you're starting to hear it with even BNB and others. I think that's going to be a trend too, and that could be a catalyst as well. So these are things I'm looking at. I don't think there's like one major thing. I think it's just a combination of all these things, and once a few starts turning positive, then it kind of like brings everything else into play, right? That's kind of how I see it.
George, I want to put our conspiracy hats on, and I want indulge me with this. I want to get your take. It's already a fact. This market structure for Bitcoin, sort of unlike anything we've seen in prior years in terms of maybe how muted, yet the steady steps up for Bitcoin is. Altcoins really haven't performed. I know a lot of investors that have been, the new investors are the institutions this cycle. I know a lot of the old investors, they took out a lot of their positions, Bitcoin under $60,000. They're waiting for that blow off top that's supposed to happen in the next 3 months to sell, and then they'll buy back in and they'll ride it all over again. What if for the next 2 to 5 years, Bitcoin just keeps going up? It's the roaring 20s, and Bitcoin just keeps going up in such a steady manner that the institutions, just like Michael Saylor every Monday, dollar cost averaging in, will look back in 2 years, will find no big dip ever really happened. And now Bitcoin's the normal price is $250,000. And damn, I haven't bought since 60, and that's the new normal. What do you think?
Yeah, this relates to I guess the theory around a super cycle. And also what we were talking about when you were asking whether I believe in a 4-year cycle. Um, I think there's a really good chance of what you just said happening. Because if the ETFs continue to hold what they hold, which is I think in cumulative over 1 million Bitcoin, right? And then you have all the treasury companies holding and just more even countries adopting and states adding to the reserves and like all these things continuous adding the demand continuous demand, and we know Bitcoin is limited with supply. If all these things continue to happen, there's no reason why we can't just keep trending forever, right? And crypto winter pretty much ends. And Bitcoin, even after December, heads into January and February, and we can see these like kind of like mini dips or consolidation points, and then we move forward up a little bit, like 20%, like you said. Then we stay there for a little bit, a few more months, and then we go up another 20%, right? We could keep stair stepping forever until the next halving event and the next cycle, I guess. I think there's a good chance of that. Because again, I just don't see all these guys timing it like retail. Like retail right now is aware of the 4-year cycle. So a lot of people are thinking, okay, yeah, December, is the time to sell, right? Because January comes next year, we're gonna start dipping down. But all these other guys, the big money guys, I don't think they're timing it. They're not looking at like, okay, it's December and we got to sell our $5 billion worth of Bitcoin in our treasury. Yeah, it just doesn't work that way. They don't buy short term. They're buying for the next 5, 10, 20 years. That's why they're building out that treasury, right? So I think that's a real possibility. Um, and that also makes me excited about the future, because we don't have to go through a 2.5 years of downtrend, right? And it would be great if that really happened. So yeah, I think that's a real possibility. I just don't know, like in this scenario, like what about the alts, right? Because right now we're seeing that the alts have not been performing as well as they should have. In prior cycles, alts already started moving, and then they have this like huge blow off top at the end of the cycle. And right now, we've only seen a few outliers have done well, right? ETH broke its recent high from 2021, like a few months ago. And then, came back down. BNB just broke it recently. Solana broke it earlier this year. So we have a few outliers, right? But obviously the entire alt space is still down. So that's the question. If we continue this cycle forward, whether or not we're going to see alts follow the same trajectory as Bitcoin going forward, right? That's the big question.
If the crypto market crashed by 30% tomorrow, what's the one altcoin you would rush to pick up?
Ooh. My biggest holdings is Solana, Sui, and ETH. And not particular in that order, but these will be the three that I look at. But I'm a big Sol guy. I know Solana has seen some controversial stuff happen in the past, but I look at, they have matured to a point where their metrics are really good, surpassing ETH in many ways, in almost all ways, except maybe development, the number of developers and maybe TVL. But in every other way, I see Solana doing excellent and surpassing ETH. So I'm very bullish on Sol. So whenever Sol takes big dives, I'll definitely DCA in. Sui is a newcomer. I like what they're doing also. And ETH, even though, there's talks about how they're old and slow and they can't scale, which are all true. But now you got Bitcoin treasuries supporting them, and the developer base is still large. So their death is greatly exaggerated. So I would load up on all these three if there was a huge 30% dip.
George, let's talk about Clash. I know you're big into it. Just final thoughts on the crypto market before we jump into that. Based on everything we've talked about, would you just give a summary of expectations or advice to investors going through crypto in the next 3 to 6 months?
The next 3 to 6 months will be very interesting. The next 3 months will really determine whether or not we have a usual cycle or we don't, right? Whether we go into like a super cycle scenario that we just talked about, right? Within the next 3 months, we will tell. Obviously, if we don't see any movement in the next 3 months, um, but we also don't see any big down movements either, then yeah, I think we have a real shot at that, right? But if we don't have any movement and then in January we start falling hard, just like prior cycles, then we kind of know that we missed something. We did have a cycle top, but it just wasn't nearly as high as people thought. I mean, you said it met your expectation 120s, right? So maybe it met some people's expectations, but didn't meet most people's expectation of going higher than that, right? So I think the next 3 months will be crucial. And then, 6 months, you can't really tell without having the 3 months, right? Because if the next 3 months happen and we kind of just continuously trend along, no catastrophic drops, and we just continue like business as usual, then I think we enter the super cycle theory, and we could just do a lot of like consolidations and dips, but we just gradually keep climbing forever.
For somebody who has never heard of your new meme coin, community coin, Clash, what is it? What is it?
I like to call it a community coin rather than meme coin because most meme coins have absolutely nothing going for it. So this is something that I picked up because my kids started playing this game called Clash Royale, and it's a very popular game. A lot of people are playing it, so they got me hooked onto it. And then I wanted to try it, right? So I played it, I liked it, and then I heard about Pump.Fun and how they're supporting live creators, right? And I heard a couple other creators try it very successfully, so I'm like, okay, let me try this for fun, right? Let me stream my Clash Royale play and see if people like it. And sure enough,
They loved it.
yeah, I built an audience around that and built a project around it and the Clash token that came out of it because Pump.Fun, if people don't know, in order to live stream, you have to create a token, right? So I created a Clash token and built a community around it. People loved it. So I decided to expand upon it, not only show me playing the game, but also doing these high prize tournaments that anyone can participate. So I've been doing that for like 4 weeks now. We're gonna have one tomorrow, and everyone loves it. They could participate, they could win prizes just for playing a game. And also I do a lot of giveaways as well. So the community, at least my community, at first didn't really like it because they thought this was just another meme coin and they had no utility, nothing whatsoever, right? But now they're starting to come to it and the community is very strong. So a lot of people love it and it's kind of like my passion now. I'm putting all my efforts into it.
And for the folks at home, this is on your other channel, I Am George. You have Cryptos Are Us, the main thing, and then I Am George growing very fast.
Yes, yeah. Because I don't want, I mean, I do talk about it on CryptosRUs, obviously a lot now, but I don't want it to just like turn it into a gaming channel. That's why I put on my other channel, I Am George, and it's supposed to be a channel about other various things, but now this has been the main focus. Yes.
George, educate me on this. Why, when so many community coins go to zero, why will this one succeed? And let me add on, once you get the coin, what can you do with it besides sell? Like Axie Infinity, once you earned the coin in game, you
Mhm.
could just sell. There was no other side of the flywheel. What's the solution?
So the let's start out with the first one. The reason why this is different is because there's too many unknown developers in this space. That's why we see like millions of memes come out and they get pumped and then they dump and no one knows what the hell happened. Who they are, who developed it, who rugged it, all the things behind closed doors. They have no idea whether a cabal started it or insiders pumped it or they had a big KOL push, right? The difference is people know who I am, right? I built Cryptos R Us for many, many years. People know that they can trust me. So that's number one, right? Number two, this was fairly launched. Actually, you don't hear anyone talk about the project. You go on X, you go on YouTube, you don't see any KOL pushes because I didn't include anyone. It was fair launch. There's no insiders, no cabal, nothing like that. So fairly launched, and there was no shady things that happened to make it pump. This was all organic, and people know who I am, and they know I'm not going to rug them, right? So that's the big difference between Clash and everything else. As for number two, what is the utility? What is Clash for, right? So a lot of meme coins, what they do is they build a community, and that's the number one thing, right? And I believe in that too. Building community is great, but it also comes down to timing, right? All the greatest meme coins that we have right now, from even our early days, like Doge, and then Sheep, and then Pepe, and then now you have the newcomers like Bonk, Whiff, and all these others. Um, they got big because they built a community, and then the timing was right. That's how they got big, right? So that's what I'm doing right now. So I'm building a community and it's growing by leaps and bounds and waiting for the right timing, which I believe will come within the next 3 months, right? So that's what you do. And as for like the utility, figuring that out still. We're building a treasury, right? There's other things that I'm not at liberty to say right now, but there are things that I am building with other partners that will incorporate the utility, right? For example, AI field. A lot of people are into AI agents. A lot of people are coming out perpetual dexes right now, right? There's a lot of things like that that's happening behind the scenes I can't quite share, but I am working on it, right? So these are things that it's a very early project. It's only been out for a month. These are things I'm really concentrating on and making sure that I'm not just building for sake of building, that it's very strategic and there's a plan to it. And I think the community knows that, and I'm sharing a lot in my Discord. So I also invite people to join my Discord if they want to learn more.
I'll put a link down below. Final question on this before I get your final thoughts. But for me, I would personally never want the headache of launching a coin because eventually price is going to go down by factors that you have no control of. And then
Right.
it's just the headache of the disappointment in the chat for 3 months. Even though you're in it for the long term, it's like, we want price up now. Are you worried about that?
Yes, I am. But I'm also looking at it from this perspective because everything else that has gone up and down, they really have nothing of substance, right? I guess in the crypto world, you would say utility. But even with meme coins, you got to have something besides just like cheerleading, right? Cheerleading is important. There's a lot of memes going on, a lot of raids, and just outreach that happens. But you need more than that, and that's where I think Clash is different because we're focused around this very popular game that has been out for 9 years, so it's not going to disappear. So that naturally makes it very easy for people to enter because they already know about the game. I form partnerships with other communities. They simply come in because they want to play and they know how to play, right? So that gives us something that's a little bit different. We have something to bond over besides just the cheerleading, which is important, right? And I think these prize tournaments is a circular effect. As we grow as a community, the prizes and giveaways are bigger, which will attract more people into the project. So it's a circular thing. And we've grown to a point where it's funny. We've grown to a point where we already exceeded almost everyone's expectations, including mine. Like we grew so fast and we're holding so well despite the market conditions not being so great that a lot of people are now aware of us, but they still don't want to get involved because they think they missed the boat already because we're already so big. So we're actually in that trap where I feel like a lot of like the meme guys, they think they're not going to make any money anymore because we're already too big. And that's simply not the case because I think the market timing is not here yet. When it is, we could definitely become one of the biggest, newest memes in the block, although I think it's a community coin. And I think we have something that no one else has, a way to bond us more besides the cheerleading.
So front page of CoinMarketCap eventually. That is the goal.
Yes. Yeah. We're listed on CoinMarketCap, CoinGecko on 4 different exchanges already. You can find us on Phantom. Everywhere that's listed already has us, but obviously we're looking for more partnerships, bigger exchange listings, and some of these things I'm working on behind the scenes. Hopefully they all come together within the next few months and brings us to the first page of CMC.
George, I want to have you back on in 4 to 6 months, revisit all these things with Clash, with Big Picture. Thank you so much, man. Final thoughts.
Hey, thank you. This was fun. But yeah, final thoughts. I think the next 3 months will be crucial, right? I think some people are depressed, but here's the thing. You look at what happened in 2023, 2024, go look at it the entire year, sideways movement or downward trending until mid to end October. That's when things change. It happened in 2023, happened in 2024, and we're right at that point. So if you're really discouraged, you really want to get out, you think the market's too like manipulated or suppressed, just wait it out. Just wait it out, see what happens in the next 3 months, if things change. Now, if they don't, and we start crypto winter in January, February, right? Then maybe you are right. But it could be a very costly mistake if you get out of the market now, right when we have a chance of making that next leg up and continuing to the cycle top, within the next 3 months.